Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Alan. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast. Our special guest today from Sydney, Australia is Robert Gerrish. Now, Robert is formerly from London, moved to Australia. Robert, welcome to the show. First and foremost, how's the wonderful world of Australia today?
Well, thank you very much, David. Well, it's a pretty fine day. It's quite early in the morning at the time we're speaking, and it looks quite sunny. It's very cold. It's just the winter is just beginning down here, but it's a clear day, so nice. Can't complain.
Nice. Very nice. I like one of the quotes you have on your site. The future isn't a place you'll go, it's a place you'll invent. Tell me how you came up with that, or did you borrow that from somebody?
I did borrow that. That's actually from Nancy Duarte. I don't know whether she'd like this description, but I recognize her as being as kind of a trainer of professional presenters. So she does a lot of work with people that are presenting TED Talks and so on. And she wrote a great book. Yeah, so I thought that was a lovely quote. Just think it really sums up that we're responsible for kind of where we're going.
Yeah.
You know, we have to create our future. So it's all, you know, I talk a lot about having a nice, clear vision, but we've got to do the steps. You know, we've got to take the steps and make the action. So I think it worked for me, and I'm glad it resonated with you too. Yeah, look, I don't know what your thoughts of Richard Branson are, David, but whenever I see him, I see a man who looks like he's very comfortable with what he's doing. He seems to be enjoying what he's doing. He seems to be surrounded by people that are very happy to be surrounding him. You know, I've never ever heard anything negative about him as a human being or a business person. So, you know, when I hear things that are said by people like that, I think, you know, that's worth paying attention to. And again, you know, that one kind of worked for me as well.
Well, I could not agree more. I think that's the persona that I see every time I see him, whether it's a still picture, a commercial, a video clip, Virgin Airlines, whatever it is. I mean, he is just so comfortable in his own skin, and the people around him, consequently, are also seem comfortable in their own. It must be quite a culture he's created there, and don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. Look, can I share a little story with you about him?
Yeah, please do. Absolutely.
Okay, it's a short one. You may or may not have heard it, but I'm a parent of a teenage boy, so and so this particular little story again really connected with me. Apparently, when Richard was quite a young boy, he came from a very well-to-do family that lived in a nice part of England. But what his mother used to do is when they were driving around the sort of the country area that he lived in to go and visit his grandmother at quite a young age, I think it was 8 or 9 years of age, what his mother would often do was she'd pull the car over to the side of the road when they're in the middle of the countryside, and she'd say, "Richard, you hop out of the car here and we'll see you at Grandma's." And he would say, "But I don't know the way to Grandma's." And the mum would say, "Well, find your way there, Richard. We'll see you when you get there."
Wow.
And she drove off. And this, you know, you do that today and you'd probably get arrested.
Of course.
You know, it gives you, I think, quite an interesting insight into how from a very young age, he was expected to work stuff out. You know, and I just think that's, you know, let's say you leave a child in the country now, it's, you know, you'd be all over the newspapers probably. But I think what a wonderful thing. And so it must have given him a sense of kind of exploration, and I can do this. And if I talk to people, I'll find the answers. And, you know, if I ask that person on that tractor, they might tell me where to go next. And, you know, you just think what it gives to a child who's growing up in terms of the ability to explore and pursue and find answers. You know, I tell you, I've been so tempted to stop the car and a few years ago and get my son to hop out, but I thought, no, my wife isn't never very supportive of the concept. But
it's a wonderful story for lots of reasons, and I think because the first thing that comes to my mind, and we were talking a moment ago about the culture that he appears to have created in his many businesses. His mother and family, to me, created a culture of inquisitiveness, of confidence, of trust, curiosity. And I mean, he got loaded with those genes pretty early.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think I totally agree with you, and I just think we need more of that.
Right.
And I think on a good day, I feel very positive about the kind of the youth of our countries and what they're doing. I find, with the massive sort of upsurge in startups and entrepreneurship, I see a number of people that really are, pushing boundaries and challenging and doing things differently. And it's, it's not all good, but a lot of it's good. And so, I take great encouragement from all of that.
Couldn't agree more. That's a nice segue into your book, The 1 Minute Commute. Turn your skills into a business you'll love, be your own boss, work from home. I have a 45-second commute from my coffee pot to my studio, so I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah. Well, I'd try and shorten that. 45 seconds sounds like a long way to walk with a cup of coffee that should be being drunk.
Well said. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So how did this book come to you, or was it a way that you've been living your life, your business? Where did it pop up from?
Well, that's a great question. I should just warn you, David, I like to talk. So if you get a problem, just tell me to shut up. So look, if I wind the clock back a bit, in the intro, you very kindly, told the listeners a little bit about me. So I did hail from London, so I had spent the first 20 years, well, not the first 20 years, the first 30, nearly 40 years of my life living in the UK, 20 of those in London. And so London's where my whole kind of career started. I did work latterly in the world of advertising. I was more in the sort of marketing and promotions industry, but we got taken over by a big ad agency. So this was when I was in my 30s, all the way through my 30s. I was working quite hard in a very exciting business, but by the time I got to my late 30s, frankly, I was really burnt out.
Yeah.
I just kind of had enough. And for whatever reason, most of my friends had sort of gone off and got married and moved out of London. And I was still sort of in London, thinking I was doing the right thing. And then I thought, actually, where is everybody? And why do I feel so tired? So and at about that time, as often happens, something big happens in your life. My father died. So my father, I was very close to my father. He was a small businessman, and he died. And I was with him a great deal towards the end of his life. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to go like that. And it was largely stress and anxiety that finished him off. And you would probably have seen, I certainly see a lot of people in small businesses who are just working too hard.
Absolutely.
So I decided, right, I want to do something differently here. So we'd sold our business to Saatchi & Saatchi. So I was footloose and fancy free. And I thought, what am I going to do now? And I thought, well, what I should do now is something that I've never really done, which is travel. So I put a backpack on and basically took a year out to travel the world. I'm very fortunate I was able to do that, but I was able to do that, and I did. And I ended up in Australia. And when I had no intention of living in Australia, but when I got here, I realized very quickly it was kind of like England, but the sun shone.
Oh my gosh!
And people actually smiled at each other.
Right.
It was, so I thought this is a nice place. So it didn't take me long to decide to stay here. And then I met my now wife of the last 20-odd years, 22 years, Jane. And when we got together, we were both in our sort of early 40s. We wanted to start a family, but we did not want to go back down that whole kind of rabbit hole of hard, gruelingly hard work and stress. So we decided, right, let's see if we can design a different way of living and working. And so we did. And at that time, this is now sort of late 90s, early 2000s, there was quite a movement in Australia to create a smaller lifestyle business. So not the kind of lifestyle images that you see of people lying in hammocks with their laptops, but just my definition of a lifestyle business is to do work you like with people you like, when you like, where you like. That's kind
Perfect.
of that, and to put enough food on the table that your family can live, and that you've hopefully got time to do other good work within your community. That to my mind is a lifestyle business. So that's what I set about growing and building. And at about that time, another wonderful American guy called Thomas Leonard had started an organization called Coach University in the US. You're probably familiar with them.
Only by name.
Certainly some. Okay. So, and they decided they were going to expand out of the US and come to Australia. So a group of them came over here to train people like me how to become coaches. And up until that point, I'd been sort of consulting to small creative businesses. But then suddenly I learned this thing called coaching. And I found through coaching and through the training I went through, a wonderful way of delivering what I thought I was, pretty okay at.
Yeah.
Which was, a really meaningful way to help people grow and develop their businesses. And so, to cut a long story short, that started me on my journey to creating a really enjoyable business. I've always loved talking to people. I always love helping people. I love small business. And at about that time, the ABC in Australia, so the Australian Broadcasting Company as opposed to the American Broadcasting Company, they were doing a TV show on new work practices, new ways of working. And through a delightful twist of fate, they discovered me in this new thing called coaching. It was very new in Australia in the late 90s. And they followed me and a handful of my clients with a camera crew. And to cut a long story short, again, I had a wonderful feature on a nationwide TV show. And overnight, my business just went nuts.
Absolutely.
You can imagine, David.
Gosh.
Yeah. It kind of doesn't get much better than that.
No, I got goosebumps on that one, man. That's to me, there's no coincidences in life, and when you have something like that happen to you, and I'm doing 25 seconds of goosebumps, that's a big time deal.
It certainly is, and I'm not sure if those days will ever be repeated. Those days of media exposure like that. I mean, this is kind of old school media, but it was wonderful. And so my business suddenly got very busy. In fact, far busier than I wanted it to be. And Jane, my wife, said, "Well, look, I thought you were designing a lifestyle business, and here you are." Coaching people all day and all night and all weekend. Our young son had been born, so it all got a bit sort of hectic. And I thought, you're right. Just because there are customers there doesn't mean I should be, serving every one of them.
Yeah.
So being a bit of a marketing man, I thought, okay, I need to just understand what's going on here. So I sort of pulled all the phone sockets out of the wall for a couple of days, and I sat down with all the files of everybody I'd ever spoken to over, by then, probably 6 months or something. And what I realized is all the people that I really connected well with and that really benefited from my work and that I really, that made my heart sing, they were all solo business owners. They were all people that were working by themselves, looking to grow a really sharp, very small business with no great desire to grow it or scale it or any of those things. Just a lot of them might be mums that were bringing up kids, or they were carers, or
They wanted a lifestyle business just like you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So that's when I had that realization with my marketing hat on. I thought, okay, I'm onto something here. There's a whole lot of people that want to work in this kind of way as well. So at that point, domain names were a new thing, if you can remember back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I registered the name Flying Solo, and I started just concentrating on that group. And then again, lovely things happened. I started writing. I've always enjoyed writing, so I started writing for a national newspaper here, the Telegraph. I had a regular weekly column called Flying Solo. And then, so it was all going rather nicely. Then a publisher approached me and said, would I like to write a book called Flying Solo? So all these things happened in such a short, I know, it's ridiculous, really. But talk about right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So what happened as a consequence of that, this is now, I'm in sort of 2000, 2002, 2003. So I wrote, that was my first book. And at the end of writing that, and I co-wrote it with a good friend of mine, at the end of it, I realized that I was certainly onto something and I wanted to carry on writing. And at that time, portals were the thing, if you remember portals,
you bet.
Before blogs were around.
Right.
So at the end of writing the book, which very quickly became an Australian bestseller, which was wonderful, I have to tell you, you don't have to sell too many books in Australia. Just to keep it real.
Just enough for bragging rights, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But so we started a portal called Flying Solo. And again, what we saw is very quickly a lot of people joined us. They wanted to submit their articles. Then people were trying to have conversations on our website. This was before forums were really taking off.
Sure.
They were trying to have conversations through sort of article comments. So anyway, we managed to sort that out. We introduced a forum. And to cut, again, a long story short, over the next 12 years, with a small band of people, we developed what became Australia's largest online community of solo businesses. It was called it still is called Flying Solo. There's 122,000 Australian small business members now. And that was my work for 12 years.
That's mind-boggling.
Well, it was
in a good way.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just beautiful. You know, the fact that we really hit a nerve and people really enjoyed it. We ran events. We had we managed to attract sponsorship from banks and telecommunications companies. They all want to get the attention of small business.
Sure.
So that turned into, quite a big little business, but we still ran it very much as a lifestyle business. So there were about 8 of us involved at the end, but we all worked remotely from our own little home offices. We came together when we wanted. We did the work we want. In some ways, when I describe the business, it sounds like we were a bunch of hippies, which we weren't. We were quite structured and organized, but at the core of everything is, if we don't enjoy it, we don't do it.
The other thing that you started with, if I remember correctly, your lifestyle business, you wanted to work on what made you happy. You wanted to be able to work where you wanted to work. You wanted to be able to do it how you wanted to do it. You wanted to be able to have balance between work and family and activities and those kinds of things. And so the Flying Solo was just you living out your plan and everybody else going, well, I'll have what he's having.
Yes, that's exactly right. And look, and I don't, yes, you're spot on. It does make it sound, like there might be people listening who really are in a difficult spot in business. And, perhaps to hear me going on about how wonderful it all is can be a bit, doesn't make you the happiest. But what I firmly believe after doing this for so long is it is possible. I've worked with a lot of people now over the years, and there are a few things we have to have in place. But if we have those things in place, and if we hold a clear picture of a vision, and if we have the courage to say no to things that just don't sit well, we can do it. I'm not talking about building businesses necessarily that generate huge amounts of revenue.
Right.
But basically that give us enough that we can live an honest, enjoyable, authentic life, and that allows us to be good contributors to our community, to our neighbors, to our children. That's what I've always wanted to do. I don't want a big, long, pointy car, and I don't want a big, tall house.
Yeah.
I just want, what's that lovely expression? Happy wife, happy life.
We hope you've enjoyed part 1 of our interview with Robert Gerrish.
Listen to Your 20-Minute Podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/Your 20-Minute Podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.